Already, attention has turned to round 2 of the Rugby Championship. Round 1 in the bank, 2 very happy teams, 2 with a bit of work to do. But in the case of all 4 sides, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, what changes, if any, should the teams make? That's what I'm going to look at on this video, and that's what I'd love your thoughts in the comments. Please give them down below. Hit the thumbs up button as well, that helps me spread the word for the channel, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and I'm going to start with South Africa because they're always the first team to name their side. We'll get the South Africa team for that second test, second round of the Rugby Championship against Australia. We'll get that tomorrow. So what changes should Rassie Erasmus make? Crushing defeat against Australia, a poor Australia team, a very, very good, ominously good South Africa team that I think you could strongly make an argument this is a better South Africa side than the one which won the Rugby World Cup only 10 months ago. Early days yet. And this would be the danger. I'm tempted to say change nothing. Because the danger would be that you make lots of changes to give people game time. And then you just, I don't know, give Australia, you open the door to them having a one-off big performance. And you undo all the great work you've just done. I'm not saying that's what happened in the Ireland test, but there was definitely a sense that that first test, there was a lot of focus. We haven't beaten Ireland in a long time. We need to go out and put a performance in. They beat them well in Pretoria and then just took their foot off the pedal a little bit in Durban and lost to Ireland. So I don't think Rassie Erasmus will make that same mistake again. And for that reason, I would be tempted to say, keep it as it was. Maybe make a couple of changes. Dwayne Vermeulen did say in the press conference today, I watched it a little while ago, and he said, we've got 33 players, they're all quality, we want everyone to get game time, which did make me think, oh right, they're going to bring the changes. But then I kind of went, yeah, of course they want everyone to get game time, but actually the bigger objective here is what they're trying to build and what they're trying to grow. And if it were me, I'd make very few changes. I quite like the fact they went into this game with a really settled team, except for Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu in the backs and Elriglo in the forwards. Obviously, they then had to bring in Ben Jason Dixon because RG Snyman was injured and unavailable. But I would have minimal changes. I'm seeing a lot of people online saying they would have lots of changes. Mine would be minimal. 1, maybe 2 in the starting 15 at most. I personally would keep Sasha in the 10 jersey. You could make some changes on the bench, perhaps. In fact, if you wanted to bring youngsters in, I would maybe say, I'll tell you what, this is what I might do. Flip the hookers around, so Malcolm Marx starts. Flip the scrum halves around, so Grant Williams starts. Maybe even, Bongi Mbonambi came off as a tactical replacement, but I think he had a back spasm, so maybe Grobelaar on the bench. There's another youngster, but start Marx. You could put Morne van den Berg on the bench, but start Williams. I'd probably just flip the scrum halves around. Jan-Hendrik Wessels was in the press conference today, which leads me to believe he might be involved. Same with Mapimpi, but actually, I think that might be all I would do. Possibly. If RG Snyman or Ruan Nortje are fit and available, as I understand they are, maybe they come in for Salman Murat. One of them comes in on the bench. Maybe one of them comes in to start. Other than that, personally, my choice would be, as you were, they're having a laugh and a joke in the changing room afterwards. I would keep Sasha in the 10 jersey, give him the minutes, and then let him loose on New Zealand. I think if you change too many now, it then might give you, it might stop the cohesion that you're building with this new team. That's my thoughts. I'd love to know yours. But nice problems to have when you've got so many great players who maybe aren't going to have game time, but are very good and capable. As for Australia, the team they're going to be playing, more injury woes for Joe Schmidt. Filippo Daugunu is injured. A fractured fibia, was it? I can't remember from biology at school which bone's which. Anyway, but he's out. But they've got Marika Korombete, who you would expect to come in, which is, I mean, I wanted to see the two of them, one on each wing, but it's a decent guy to come in. Similarly powerful. And both locks have head injuries that's being monitored. I don't know if they're unavailable yet, but Nick Frost and Jeremy Williams might both be out. Josh Cannon from the Reds has been called up. Taniela Tupou won't be available still after the death of his father and the funeral which is happening. So sad reason for him to miss out, obviously, but and that's not great for Joe Schmidt. So what do they change? Honestly, I think the biggest thing Australia changed, forget about personnel, is attitude. They should go back and look at the game tape, look at that try, and think, yeah, there's a little hint of it there. I've had some people saying Ben Jason Dixon held an Australian back and blocked him a little bit. Maybe. But Australia, you just need to be nastier. If someone's remotely in your way, fight. Fight a bit more to not let yourself be blocked. At least fight a little bit more to not let yourself be blocked. And then if there is any blocking, it'll be obvious to the referee. They were just a bit passive. So I just think Australia need to flick their attitude and be nastier. I'm absolutely sure they will in this second test. There was one try actually when Sasha Feinbergen-Gomezulu made that brilliant break. If you remember it in the first half, he made that great break, and it was a great break, and it was a strong fend. Nevertheless, a fly half should never be able to fend off a tight head prop. Alan Alatoa got done by Sasha Feinbergen-Gomezulu, and that's the kind of thing that should not happen. It should not happen. He was there to make the tackle, and he just got, I don't know, the energy just wasn't at the right level. And Australia can get a lot better just by flicking a switch and being a bit nastier. And that, I think, is what Joe Schmidt will be doing. Do you know what? I'll tell you what, in terms of attitude, Australia need to say, what would Ray Gunn do? What would Rachel Gunn, the Olympic breakdancer, do? They should go and get her to do the pre-match chat. She could bust a few moves in the dressing room before the match as well. But the Australian rugby team should do what Rachel Gunn did. She got 0 points. And Australia probably going to lose this game to South Africa. They'll go into the game big underdogs. But what did Ray Gunn do? She went out there and just went for it. She gave it her all. She was full of attitude, gave it all the beans and had a crack. And her country's really proud of Ray Gunn. And I think Australia, if they go down swinging, give it a bit of Ray Gunn attitude. How am I keeping a straight face while I'm saying this? That's all Australia need to do. Give it some Ray Gunn. Argentina, just don't change anything. Just do it again. That is actually the challenge, though, isn't it, for Argentina? Can they back it up? I did like, and it was positive that straight after the full-time whistle, they were in tears and really excited. But then straight away, Pablo Matera, Augustin Crevi, Felipe Contepomi, all saying, this isn't the first time we've won in New Zealand. We've won before. We've beaten them a couple of times in recent years. But the next time we play them, they go and smash us. We cannot let that happen. And that's positive that they're even talking in those terms. And that is the measure of this Argentina team. Can they go to the well again and draw out another big performance? That is a challenge, isn't it? To put so much emotionally into one match and then a week later be able to raise yourself to the same level again. But that is the challenge, and that's the story they need to tell themselves, that they've been here before and then haven't backed it up and have got smashed. And the big measure for them is if you see Argentina crying during their national anthem again, you know that it's going to be a tasty game. If they don't quite seem there before the kickoff, all bets are off, because New Zealand are absolutely going to come with a bit of fire for this one. In front of Eden Park, where they haven't lost in decades, they are going to be hurting and wanting to make a statement. The crowd are going to be there in number. There will be no empty seats in Auckland like there were in Wellington, and it's going to be a reaction. It's going to be a massive game. I hope Argentina bring it. New Zealand are going to bring it. I watched a couple of clips from The Breakdown. John Kerwin and Jeff Wilson having their say. I did find it interesting. Have you seen what they said? They said, I just made a couple of notes, they talked about how amazing Argentina were. Quite rightly, they were. They credited Argentina repeatedly for being fantastic. Fair enough. They talked about what a brilliant job Felipe Contepomi has done and how he's really improved them since the World Cup. I mean, they've played a French B team, Uruguay, and now New Zealand. So, okay, but they also said the lack of scrums was the problem for New Zealand. Basically, they made, from where I was, they made a lot of reasons why they didn't have to talk about Scott Robertson. And which is fine. I haven't got a problem with that whatsoever. I was just watching it thinking, imagine if that performance in Wellington had happened under Ian Foster, and how much the knives would have been out for the coach alone. And they wouldn't have been talking about the scrums. They wouldn't have been talking about Argentina. they would have been just going in on how awful New Zealand were. Now, I don't think New Zealand were awful. I think they were below par in certain areas. But I just find the media narrative quite interesting, because these are the people that have been desperate for Scott Robertson for so long. He's now got pressure on. And that's what I find interesting. Rather than talking about, I'm not saying the rights and wrongs of what John Kirwan or anyone has said. I just find it quite interesting, the Scott Robertson factor here. And it is going to be really interesting to see what he does next. What he does, what he should do. I think, for what it's worth, that he should keep it pretty much the same. I don't think he should make too many changes, if any. I think there were missed tackles that you can solve just like that, and that's attitude. Again, a little bit like Australia. Top 2 inches, you can change a lot of the issues with New Zealand's game. Missed tackles, there was just a bit of a lack of edge from some of those players. They got outdone physically, emotionally, and in terms of attitude by guys like Matera and Kremer and Gonzalez in the Argentina back row. The gain line, the breakdown that came through. They conceded 38 points, the most points that any New Zealand team has ever conceded in New Zealand. That is just attitude. They're not bad players. They're very, very good players. They lost a World Cup final 10 months ago by a point. Yes, they're without Whitelock. They're without Retallick. They're without Aaron Smith. 3 incredible players. And Richie Mwanga. I'm not negating those players, but they've got very good players. They are not a team that should be conceding 38 points at home. And a lot of that is attitude. And Scott Robertson now, I think his biggest job is to see how good's your man management. I don't think they should change too much. I think they should keep the pack exactly the same. If they don't have Scott Barrett still, Ardie Savia should be captain again, but this time he should actually do a better job at leading his team. And that pack needs to be nastier. In the backs, a lot of people are going to be talking about Damien McKenzie at fly half. The problem is, I think if you change Damien McKenzie, I think that just shows, weirdly, I'm split here. I think it would show weakness in Scott Robertson. On the one hand, I'm like, a coach should be decisive and recognise when they need to change things. But he played DMAC 10 in both the England games. He's obviously made that choice. This is how we're going to play. DMAC's the boy. And then one bad result and you change it. I'm not sure how that looks. If he thinks Damien McKenzie is the guy, he's the guy. If he doesn't think he is, fine. Make a different decision. But if he drops him for this one game and then brings him back for the next game, I don't know how that looks. If he thinks Damien McKenzie is his boy, which he seems to, and he says he will be better and he will learn from this, pick him again. I haven't picked a great picture of Cortez Ratimer against Argentina because he's getting walloped there, but that might be the one change I would make. TJ Perenara just seemed a little slow. Cortez Ratimer seemed to have a little bit more energy when he came on. Maybe that might actually help Damien McKenzie. A nastier pack. Change at scrum half. That might be it. There's talk about Caleb Clark coming in for Sevu Reece. I might be all right with that. Will Jordan, still early days. Didn't really have an impact when he was on, but maybe start him instead of Beauden Barrett and have Bodie on the bench to give Will Jordan more minutes. I don't know. I can see it all ways there. Personally, I wouldn't change very much because Scott Robertson picked his team. He said this is his best side. Let's see if his man management can change it from week to week. Because in a funny way, if he makes lots of changes and then New Zealand win, I think the situation might be more confused than if he keeps it the same. Bearing in mind they actually seem to do all right against England. Does that make sense? It's going to be interesting to see what happens. They're my thoughts. Tell me yours in the comments down below. I think in summary, Ray Gunn's a legend, the breakdancer. That would probably be my summary of the whole video. And with that, on that bombshell, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Hit subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, leave your comments. See you on the next one.